All right, everybody, welcome back to the Backyard Slinging Podcast. This week I have Miss Heather Diehl. And go ahead and give us a little intro about yourself and where you're at.
Yeah, sure. I am out in York, Pennsylvania. I am a deputy warden of operations for a county jail. That's actually you and I met working as COs
Right.
as young kids, and
Oh, yeah.
and I have been in corrections ever since, just working my way up. Went to a couple different jails, kind of fast tracked my way up in the last 10 years.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Because that's when you started. What, like a half a year after me there?
Yep, I started in 2014, like July of 2014.
Yeah, a few months after me. It's not bad for 10 years, that's for sure.
No, yeah. Yep, spent 2 years with you, and then I went over to a bigger jail that's nearby. Then I went back to a smaller jail, and I was promoted each time. And now I promoted up to deputy warden. But you left shortly after I did, right?
I was just about to ask you because I left in December of 16.
Yeah, so you left about 4 or 5 months after I did.
Yeah, and then I'm still kind of at the same level as when I left. I haven't.
You went to go be did you go to be a sheriff? Am I wrong thinking that?
Yeah, that's what I did. But pretty much like most like southern states, and I think western states too, the sheriffs run everything.
Right.
Not like Pennsylvania where they're just doing courthouse and civil service.
Right. I think PA is like one of the only states that like you're a corrections officer versus like for county at least versus almost every other state the sheriff's department runs the jail, which makes sense. But
I think so.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, because we can, when it's like that, you can get like a lateral transfer. Say if you want to go to the road or something, or to the courthouse.
Yeah.
You can kind of go in between all three.
Right. Did you ever have you gone to the road, or are you still?
No, I'm still in jail.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I mean, hey, I honestly miss the floor sometimes. Like, sometimes I think I wish I didn't move up so fast, but at the same time, I don't think I would be satisfied had I not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're always pretty driven.
Do you have any desire to be a lieutenant or anything?
I don't think so. I don't think with, I don't know, at least with some of the stuff that I've seen, it wouldn't be, trying to see how I say it without possibly getting in trouble. Just the way like I handle situations or whatever, I'm not as, usually not as politically correct and refined, I guess.
Right.
I still kind of see things like when we came in at like kind of like a big transitional time where it went from like the old way of doing things to like how they do stuff now.
Right.
Where it's a little more geared towards, I wouldn't say being nicer to like the inmates.
Mental health. It's definitely like mental health geared. Well, and I don't know if you feel this way also, but I feel like we came in at a point where it was very much like 50-50. There was like the old school mentality, and then there was like the new mentality. And then I feel like our world got flipped upside down when COVID happened. And like from my experience at least, incidences increased, but the expectation for that same way you would handle the incident changed totally into like very PC and like just gloves
being
off.
all about the public perception.
Correct. But I feel like COVID changed the world, the corrections
No.
world significantly.
Yeah. I mean, we're generally back in a better operationally now than from like that immediate time after.
Right.
So
Did
it's
you
not
guys
too
have?
bad.
Did you see like a spike of incidences when like you guys probably took all your operations away, other than like maybe day space or block out, however you guys say it. Did you
Yeah, we
guys see
did a
a
lockout.
spike? Did you see a spike in incidents? Like, did you see like a
Like
lot
inside?
more? Yeah.
No, because we cut down on like the housing because I guess it would be um, the Commonwealth was letting people out more to alleviate the overcrowding due to
Right.
COVID.
Yeah.
So we had less people in. Like, I mean, we were probably around like 50%, and we were
Yeah.
doing everything we could to keep one person per cell. There was no double cells or anything
Oh wow.
for quite a while. Which
Wow.
now, when all that stuff went away per se, and we started putting people in doubling up again, then we started having some issues with that because they got a little spoiled about it.
Right.
So
Right. And then, they're
we
demanding
had
who they want to be with and whoever else
right,
or whatever
yep,
else.
like no, that's over there's, I want to go with that. No, and we have to get back to the whole, the housing's not an option thing,
That base, yeah, exactly.
which depending on the deputy or the officer, you know how that
Right.
goes. Some are a little more lenient than others.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue everywhere is where like they just
Yeah,
um unless you have like a classification department, like truly, and that's like
and they're
housing
assigning. Yeah,
housing is their thing, you're gonna find that, or at least I find that officers are more inclined to move people just because if there isn't a classification department.
yeah,
So that which is unfortunate, but also, I mean, at the same time, like your officers do know your inmates better. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it is helpful in some ways, but in others, it's not.
yeah. I would say it's helpful when like the individuals that you have on your unit and you know how they react to certain things, so you can kind of mitigate some issues
Right,
before they happen.
right,
Or if they develop, you're like, okay, well, I can move this guy to here and avoid any altercations.
right. And
That
you watched it develop, so you know it's
yeah,
like a real issue
yeah,
versus just I don't want to be moved in with that person for
yeah,
whatever.
and I mean that's still most of it. Like pretty much anywhere, I was like, I don't want to be with this guy. We have problems. I'm like, okay, well, what guy? And it's like you gotta give me a name.
Right.
I'm not just gonna
Yes.
move you to move you.
Right.
So, and then most of the time it turns out to be nothing. They just want to be moved
Right.
because I'll have a couple of days off and come back. And I know that they asked every single person that sat on that unit since then.
Right.
And then they're still there. So I'm like, well, it wasn't a problem. So,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
because if there was a problem, it would have uh, not fixed itself by any means, but it would
Right.
have bubbled over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know? Probably my most memorable moment of you is all right as
Oh
a
boy.
CO. Yeah. All right. It's hilarious because I don't know. Whoever watches this might not realize that you're actually a super quiet guy.
Oh,
Um,
most
you're
people
pretty
know.
reserved. Yeah. So you're a pretty reserved guy. So you were working a Gen Pop block, and I think I was coming on to break you, and I walk in, and there's just a male voice, just yelling, and I mean like ripping into someone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I walk all the way in, and there you are on the top tier just yelling at your day room. And I had never heard you yell like that. Because most people hadn't even heard you talk. So the
Right.
idea that I was hearing you yell at these inmates. It made me laugh. That's probably my biggest memory of you, other than once we actually got to know each other and going on transports and stuff like that. But it still sticks with me. I find it so entertaining.
Oh, that for sure. My wife would say the same thing because she worked with me here for the first 8 years I was here, the first 9 years, and then we ended up getting married. But she is the same way. She would think the same things, like, you're so quiet and this and that. And most of the other coworkers would think the same thing.
Right.
But I'm definitely a lot louder in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Especially, I say it really turned up after my deployment in 2018-19.
Yeah.
And I come home from that, and then it was just game on. I don't.
You had enough.
Yeah.
You had enough. You said, you know what? This is who I am.
Yep. I mean, that's how I've done it since. I mean, it works out for me. I mean, it works out pretty well, I think. I wouldn't say no issues with it. I mean, you're always going to have issues with certain people, but it's definitely a lot less. And usually if there isn't an issue, the other inmates in the unit, they'll kind of if they like you and they know that you're consistent and fair and everything, they usually try to straighten out things for you.
Yes.
In a way, so.
Right. I always tell new officers, if you're a new officer or watching this, or if you're someone that's interested in corrections, I always tell them, give it 6 months, because the first 6 months you're going to hate.
Yeah, you're going to get picked on by everybody.
Yes, the other COs are going to pick on you. Your supervising staff might pick on you.
Yeah, the inmates are going to.
Yes, give it 6 months, and then give it 6 more months. So the first 6 months is because you're going to hate it, but you will figure by the end of that 6 months you're going to really understand your job, finally, and they're going to get off your back. Yeah. As long as you're willing to be picked on. I mean, you have to. It's like high school almost. You're going to have to. You're
picked on, and you're picking up.
Yes,
the job.
Exactly. And then the next 6 months is you're going to start really feeling yourself. Once you are good at, you're going to start getting better at running a block. The inmates are going to start to know you, so they know the expectations that you have. You're going to start being able to run a block without even really saying anything.
Right.
I mean, you still have to say something, but for the most part,
that reminds me of something. I forgot about it. I was running the Max unit at Franklin County, where we were.
Yeah.
And there's one day, from the time I woke up and came in, my voice completely left. I couldn't talk. I would try. I'd be and nothing would come out.
Right.
And that was probably the best day I had working there. I didn't have a single issue. They locked down before it was time to lock down.
Yeah, they weren't going to test you because they were. Right. Yeah. Well, and that's really the point, is that after that first 6 months they stop testing you.
Yeah.
And the people that do test you, the inmates will usually adjust for you.
Yeah.
And then give it the next 6 months, you'll start gaining a lot of confidence, and then at that point, that was a year mark is probably really when I started loving the job. I genuinely loved the job. And I still do. I mean, there's aspects of it that are different now that I'm in administration and stuff, but I do really love my job. That is so, but had you asked me my first 6 months, I would have told you I hated it. and back to inmates making fun of you. You could be the most attractive person, the smartest person, and the funniest person all in one person, and they will find something to make fun of you for. I Like, we had a dude, we had a brand new CO at one of the jails that I was working at. He wore cowboy boots one time in his training. They called him Boots for the rest of his training. Like, just stuff like that. They're gonna find
Yeah.
something just to get on your nerves.
Well, I mean, that's not the worst thing they could have called him, so he should be happy.
Right, exactly. I agree completely. But it frustrated him. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
What's
So,
the
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, what's the most memorable, like, insult anyone has ever given you, like an inmate has ever said to
Oh,
you? Do you have one?
I don't think so. I mean, not off the top of my head. I probably have to really think about it because normally I kind of do like a memory dump after the end of the day.
Right.
I don't carry much with me. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know I've had some good things that I've said back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, I can't even. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything in particular.
there's really only one insult that I carry with me, and that is my last name's Diehl, and a girl called me Dildo, and I don't know. I had heard people make fun of my last name
Yeah.
my whole life. But that one was brand new. I had never heard anyone tell me that, and I honestly thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, if you get like a good one, I mean, you're gonna laugh at it, honestly,
Right? Yeah.
more often
Right.
than not.
You have no other option really, because
Yeah,
if you let it bother you, they're just gonna
they're gonna build
invoke
off of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say just like because, like you said, you've only been doing this for around 10 years,
Uh huh.
and you've already moved up, as high and as quick as you did. Like, I guess, what's that kind of experience like? Because with me, like, I'm still on the floor, pretty much doing the same thing, just in a different location.
Right. Um, I think that what really helped me adjust to moving so quickly was going to different facilities. I mean, as you can probably agree, like the facility that you and I started at, I have nothing bad to say. Like
Right. Yeah.
the administration when we were there was great. The old heads when we were there were great.
Yeah.
The We had an awesome shift where everyone that was our age actually wanted to be there and do their job. Like,
Yeah.
and our leadership led. They genuinely led.
And
If you
they
had questions,
were there for us.
correct.
Yeah.
So that I think they starting there really like gave me a good foundation. And then I went over to a much larger facility and a much older facility. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what type of facility that you work at now, but you might know that if the facility is older, the building's more decrepit. A lot of times there's a lot more incidents. There's a lot more, unfortunately, violence or suicide attempts or things like that. Um,
Okay.
so I went from this like really well-rounded place to a place that had a lot more action, I guess you could say.
Okay. Yeah.
And immediately upon going there, I got promoted. So I built my ability to do incident command
In a pretty
in a yeah,
conducive place for that.
right, exactly. Um, so then I was there for 4 years, and I went to a different facility, which was a lot like the one that we started at.
Okay.
And so then I went from, so I had this incident command really built, and I went to this next facility, and they were an amazing administration who like really harped on leadership skills and understanding like litigation and stuff like that. So then
Okay.
I got that administration piece of it there. So then I had both of these pieces, and those are the two main pieces that you need for administration. So then I went up to administration, and I lucked out that I had gotten both sides of it.
Right.
Um, so if you're someone who wants to climb the ladder quickly, then I would suggest that you go to multiple facilities and experience them for a couple of years at the very least, because you're definitely getting different viewpoints on.
Right.
Um, but um, I don't think that it's not very often that I have any issues like being 33 and being the second highest ranked person in the building. There's
Right.
not It's not very often that I get too much pushback, if any. But I think that's because of, you know,
They know where you come from.
yeah, exactly. Like knowing that I am there to support them. Like I'm not there to be, the deputy warden. Like I want to be a good leader. That is my main goal. Um, so I think that, like, obviously when a new administration walks in, you're you're gonna get weary COs because they've been there for 10 years and they don't know
Yeah.
any. I don't know anything and all that. But
Yeah.
as I progress and prove that um, I'm there to be a leader and not just you know whatever, be a disciplinarian or whatever.
Right. Just there to get them when they mess up or something.
Right. Yeah. So I think that that's like the main thing is just your goal. My goal was to be a leader, and I try to act accordingly to that. So I don't get a whole lot of pushback.
Well, that's
Maybe at
good.
first, but not anymore.
Well, that's good. I'd say like the sheriff's office is a little different in that because we don't have a lot of outside people coming in to supervisor roles.
Right.
Almost everything is from the inside and it just goes up. So
And
it's the same way. Like you get someone that you know and you've known them for years, and now they're a sergeant, they're the
right.
lieutenant or the
Right.
captain or whatever, and you know how they are. But in the same place, when you have the promotions from inside, dynamics always change.
Correct.
At
And
least they
that's
should in some way.
and that's they definitely should. My One of the biggest things that I harp on, at least when I promote within, or when I promote someone within, is
Right.
understanding that, like, if you and I grow up together in this facility and we are good friends, or we consider each other good friends, then you, as a good friend, should respect me as a supervisor even
Right.
more, simply because
Yep.
you wouldn't want to put me in a situation where I have to address you or my job's at risk.
Right.
Because there should be a different level of respect there. So I try to remind newer supervisors that, or when an unfortunate event of like a supervisor does get disrespected by a subordinate that they grew up with, I try to remind them, like, hey, I understand that you don't want to do anything about it because you grew up with them, but if
Yeah.
they cared about you, they wouldn't have placed you in this position.
Right.
Um, I The other part, like you were saying, like people that promote within. I think most facilities definitely try to promote within, but I do think that sometimes that stunts growth for a facility.
Yeah. Because you're not getting new views and stuff coming in.
Correct. Right. Uh, but I mean, that's not to say someone can't come up with those views. It's just I think that sometimes
Right.
those like seeing it happen somewhere else and coming and being like, "Hey, have we considered this, or this?" Um,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
helpful. But again, it needs to be said the right way, because I'm sure in corrections, if someone comes in that's new and they went somewhere else and they're like, well, at such and such, we did it this way, they get shunned immediately.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So how many inmates does your facility have? Or how many can it hold?
I think it's pretty close to Franklin County.
So like
for population-wise.
500 or 600, or around 400 or 500?
I think. Yeah. I think Franklin is like 480 or something was the max there or something like that. But we're around the same number.
Yeah, I remember it was close to about 500, but I don't...
Yeah. But the layout's a lot different. Like this building's it's so much bigger just because of how they have it laid out.
Do you like that? Because from my experience, a spread out building delays a lot of operations.
It definitely can at some points because you're waiting for a lot more to happen and your response time to incidences is longer. I mean, not much longer, but it's still longer. And I'd say running from one end of the building to the other, it's going to take you at least a minute.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe not a minute.
Is it a straight line at least?
No.
So it's just like...
There's a couple L's in there. Yeah. And it's like built on a hill. So like one section, like if you're standing like down near the units and you're looking like up towards where you walk in.
Yeah.
You're like a whole like 6 foot lower.
Is it like ramped?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're running from there and like running up to the front, you're gonna be feeling it.
Right. Yeah.
Going up the hill.
Running hills at work. That sounds terrible.
Oh yeah. Luckily, most of the time you're running the other way, so you're running down the hill.
Right.
But then of course like Franklin County. I like Franklin because everything was. I mean, the building was only 150 yards long, if that.
Yeah, I would say. I think if I remember, it was probably about 100 yards. 150 yards because if I remember it, running around it four times was a mile or something close to it because I used to do that after my shift sometimes. I would jog around it, get a little exercise. But I think that in all my experience, I think that Franklin County setup is the best setup that I've ever seen. Now,
I like it.
Doesn't mean that I wouldn't change a thing or two, but from what I have experienced, hands down, best setup.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the setup there. And of course, there was direct. Where I'm at now, it's indirect.
Right. Where I'm at now, is indirect too. I'm not a huge fan of indirect, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it has its pros. I don't think it's for running a unit. I would prefer direct.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like the units kind of just run themselves. When they're indirect, and then you walk in and everyone's like, "Uh-oh, better stop."
Yeah.
and then, but I also I feel like, I mean, it definitely has its pros and cons. I feel like direct, you're more likely probably to develop relationships with the inmates, which could be good or bad depending on how good you are at monitoring yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But indirect, and again, like, I feel like indirect almost fosters a little bit more of aggression because of that lack of that, like, getting to know, seeing each other as humans.
Right. That could be, I guess, in other facilities. I haven't really been in other facilities that have the indirect.
Right.
But where we're at, there's not. There really isn't a whole lot of, like inmate on deputy altercations. Yeah. Like there's a lot of like the talking to each other and stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot of physicality.
Right.
and not even as much as at Franklin. Because, I mean, we were spraying people at least once a week there and, like, doing extractions pretty regularly.
Well, I would debate also that it was probably the same person or two people because of the behaviors that they were displaying. So, because, like, when those people don't exist, then I would debate that the incidents were lower than that.
Yeah, it'd probably be about the same then. Because, like, in the 8 or 9 years I've been here, I have not sprayed a single person.
Oh.
And I think I've only physically, in person, seen OC happen twice.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then one, it's just really not a common thing.
Do you, like, what do you attribute that to? Do you have the same type of population?
No.
Like, what's your...
Not even close. I mean, it's not a rural county by any means.
Okay.
It's probably pretty the opposite, and we have a lot. I'd say we have a pretty high foreign population.
Interesting.
So, and that's foreign from everywhere, not just like Central America or stuff like that. We have from Asia, Europe. We have like everything there, and it's a pretty high population of that, and the general like income level of the county is pretty high.
Okay.
It's a pretty wealthy county, so.
Right.
So most of it's drugs.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest one. But yeah, it's not a place where people are growing up struggling.
Right.
Not like, Franklin County.
The middle of the mountains. Yeah. I mean, you had Franklin County, you have like, I feel like both complete ends of the.
Yeah, especially now with how much it's grown up there.
Yeah, with the like socioeconomic pieces of it, because I feel like you would drive through and you'd have like these gorgeous houses up on the mountains sometime, and then other times you're driving through and it's all like, it's the city more or less is. There's pieces of the city that aren't exactly the best place to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true for up there.
But I would also say that the inmates themselves were on the array of things too. You know what I mean? Like I've met inmates that grew up in very wealthy families, and then obviously the exact opposite.
Yeah. Good grief. Keep coughing. Oh man. Well, I guess we can if you don't mind, you don't have your trophy there with you, do you?
I can if you want to pause it or something, I can run and go get it. I was gonna bring it out. I forgot to bring it out.
Oh man.
Haven't you didn't know how big it was?
No. I haven't I have yet to see it in person, so that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice.
I like it. Pretty nice.
And what's nice about it is like if I had to put it together. So like it comes apart. So if you need to ship it, you know what I mean, it's easily shipped versus trying to
how's that how's the ball feel? Like what's that made out of or whatever?
I would say like a hard plastic maybe. Or like a ceramic. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I know for the people listening, we've talked about it in two or three of the episodes prior to this. The 16-team football league I run. That's the trophy I got for the league, and each year the winner will get a little plaque that goes on with their name, and then it goes to their house.
Right.
Until the next winner.
The trophy itself. So I'm a 5-foot woman. The trophy itself is about the size of my torso.
And that's the smallest one they had.
Which, Yeah, I mean it is really
that.
nice. We were gonna trade it yesterday, but it snowed up here. I don't know if it snowed down there.
No, we didn't get no snow, unfortunately. It sucks.
So we're gonna trade next week too. I still think that the loser should pay for the trophy to be shipped. I think that should be the losing prize.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it again too, like for like the loser stuff, but nobody. If people don't want to do it, like if they're not committed to it, they're just not going to do it. So that's what I came out
and then
with.
It never gets shipped. Right.
Yeah. So that's why I kind of came out with how I did the draft order, where I went down the line, and that's how you pick your draft order. So if you don't want to have a bad draft spot, well, you got to keep playing better. Even in the playoffs, like if you get in like the loser bracket, you still got to compete.
Right.
So
no, I mean that's a good way to do it. That it's like still forces the loser to, you know what I mean? Like it's a punishment that you can actually
enforce.
Give. Yeah, exactly. Instead of hey, you got to pay for this trophy, and then they just never send the money or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the trophy. I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It sat in my kitchen. I displayed it. I displayed it in my kitchen the whole entire year.
That's a pretty good spot for it. Everybody see that.
Yeah, that's exactly why I did it. And then every person that would come in and be like, "You play fantasy football?" And I'd be like, "Not only do I play it, I've won
it." That's pretty good. So yeah, you won last year, and I'm pretty sure you, like most other people, if not all of them, that was your first time playing in a league that big.
Yes.
With 16 teams, along with the defensive players, which I don't know if you've done that before either.
No, I don't think. No, I've never played with the defensive players. When I worked as a lieutenant, the administration and the lieutenants had a league on Yahoo, I mean, which is like a lot simpler than the app that we use. So I was like fighting for my life last year, and then this year, like every time I was slotted to win, I would get slaughtered. It was I can't seem to.
I haven't had too much good luck in that league. So since I've made it 16 teams anyway. So
yeah, that's probably how many can you do? Like
you can go 32.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I don't really know how you could do that one and it'd be competitive.
Right.
I think it'd be pretty tough. I know Cody, who's in both those leagues, he wants to try it. So I think if he wants to try it, you could probably just open it up public, and you would get the people in. And, I mean, you can give it a go and see what happens. But
right, I don't know how many people, at least from my experience, like people don't like playing with a ton of teams. So I don't know if if people from the public would join in, whether or not they would.
I think they would have to have some kind of interest in that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and then let's see, you joined the other one too.
Yes.
The 12-team Dynasty League.
Yes.
Which, have you done that before?
No, I've never done that before either. And that's the one where it's like all brand new players, right? Rookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like each year, it'll be just the rookies that you draft because you retain your team from the year before.
Yeah. So I did terrible on that one. I did terrible this year, I think. I mean, I think I got right in the middle of. I wasn't dead last. I just wasn't.
You definitely weren't. That was Lupo.
Yeah.
Who he played for the championship the year before.
Right.
And then he finished dead last this year.
Knowing him, and I hope he listens and hears this, he probably forgot he was playing.
I don't think so. 'Cause I've been trying to make it a point to keep on him. Like
Hey,
I
you
would
gotta.
text him. I would text him every week, pretty much. Like, hey,
You like.
you got
Do
some
you have
guys
a
that haven't played for 3 weeks. You probably want to put them on the IR or something. Like,
right? Do you have an iPhone?
yeah.
You can do timed texts. You can set dates and
Oh,
times.
nice.
You should just do
Just
that
set
at
it
the
up
beginning of the
automatically.
season. Do that at the beginning of the season, and then you never have to
Yeah,
worry about it.
that's a good idea. I'm gonna have to do
Like,
that.
have you checked your roster today? And that's
Just the
it.
same one the whole time. But let's
Or
see. You
yeah,
finished.
change it slightly, so that way he thinks you're texting him.
Yeah. You finished 10th.
Out of
Which
16. Not
12
terrible.
out of 12.
12. Okay, not
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I don't remember what the guy that had your team the year before was. He didn't make the playoffs. I know that.
Right.
But so I mean, it is what it is.
So it might be his fault.
Yeah, because last year would have been the second year for the entire league. So it's still, I would say, like the first 3 or 4 years of doing a dynasty league, it's
Okay.
still pretty strongly tied to that initial draft and building the team.
So if you like you draft your team and then the next year comes and you can draft new rookies, correct?
Yeah.
How do you lose players? Like do
If
they
they retire or if you drop them, pretty much, or
okay,
trade them,
right.
and
And that
and you
was
can, good.
all I was gonna say is I think that was the hardest part for me was like I would see someone was like sucking and I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop them and then you would like come into my phone and be like, they might do good next year. And I'm like, no, like give me anxiety.
Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and you can also trade for draft picks.
Right.
So like, if you wanted to trade like if you had like 4 starting quarterbacks, and you see another team that didn't do so hot, like maybe Lupo, and you're like, hey, I'll trade you this quarterback for your second round pick or something.
Right.
Then you can do that.
I might need to do that. I need to make some changes because again,
Yeah.
every time I was slotted to win, I would just get destroyed. It'd be like, hey, you're gonna make, you know, you're gonna easily kick this person's butt, and then I would like check it, Monday or whatever, and I'd be like, what happened?
Oh, actually, now that I think about it, the team you had last year did go to the playoffs. I think he's the guy who won a championship in a 16-team league this year.
Huh?
That was his team.
Then we can blame it on me, I guess.
I mean, it's weird because bringing up like with Lupo again, he played in the championship game the first season, and then he
Right.
finished last this year. He had a lot of bad injuries,
Right.
so
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of injuries in general this year. I
yeah.
mean, I was constantly moving people in and off my IR list, which is interesting because I feel like the first year I ever played, I don't think I ever touched my injury list. Like, it wasn't
Right.
really a thing.
Well, for this dynasty one, like I've had all but full IRs both years. Now last year is more like key player guys. This year is only like 2 that were
Right.
like guys I would start every week.
Right.
So it wasn't as bad, but still it ran into my depth a little bit. So that's what it is.
Where did you finish?
I played for the championship this year,
Okay.
and I lost.
Now,
So
did you guys do a trophy or anything for the dynasty?
no, because you get the payout if you win that one. So
Right. Right. Right.
now I thought about getting. I don't know if you've seen like on TikTok and stuff those rings that always pop up, like
Is it
for a
like a
fantasy
Super Bowl?
champion ring. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
I
like
thought about getting one of those for the league, like each year, because they're only like $15.
Right.
Might not be a
Yeah.
terrible thing. We'll
Yeah, that'd
see.
be cool.
Maybe I'll. I mean, I don't know if I could do it retroactive. Get a 2023 one for who won last year.
Probably, I would
But
imagine.
we'll
I would
see.
imagine that they're customized. You know what I mean? So it's probably.
Yeah, I have to see if I can. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. So
It just sucks that you're the one always paying. That's why,
yeah,
you gotta somehow like. I mean, I guess you could take it from if you do it for the dynasty, you could take it from the jackpot, but
yeah,
some people might just rather have the full jackpot.
probably. Well, let's see. We're at 48 minutes right now, so
All right.
we can cut this one here, and I guess if we want to try to knock another one out, we can. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah,
All
sure. I
right.
mean, edit whatever you need to edit, and then if you're like, hey, let's touch base here, there, wherever, we can do that again.
All right. I mean, it's not like we can't have you on again. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't. I told my friend last week when we did it on Wednesday, like this, because he really wanted to come down in person, but the weather was bad, and
Right.
it's like I'm not planning on stopping this anytime soon. So I think we'll be all right.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
there's gonna
Yeah.
be plenty of opportunities.
I would like to definitely do it in person, but it was like
Oh,
I'll
you're
have to
over
make
2 hours away.
I'll have to make like almost like a weekend out of it. You know what I mean? Go down
Yeah.
and hang out and
There's
whatever.
not too much to do down here, though. That's a problem.
I don't need a whole lot to do.
I mean, there's a couple of tiny battlefields. That's about it.
Right.
So,
I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could find something that's you might have something that's like an hour away or whatever, and just go do that.
oh, you could do Skyline Drive.
Okay.
That wouldn't be bad. That's pretty nice down there. But,
Yeah, I
yeah.
actually. All right, man. It was good seeing you.
Yeah, you too.
Let me know if you want to get back together. All right.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I don't know if you know this. You're the first official guest for the show.
Yes.
So, you're the first or something. So,
Right. Yes. All right. Thanks, man.
All right. I'll
Later.
see you, and I'll see everybody else.